We are on the afternoon break in the questioning of the undercover police officer HN18, Robert Hastings, who used the cover name Rob Harrison to infiltrate the International Solidarity Movement, No Borders, State of Emergency, the Rampart Social Centre. I'm joined by Victoria Dawson, regular commenter on these videos, and now here in person. And what do you make of what we've heard from Robert Hastings this afternoon?
He's an interesting character, isn't he? For probably all of the wrong reasons.
Very much the wrong reasons, I'd say, yes.
Yeah. He is. It's interesting the way he's using his language, the way that he's kind of. He will say things like, I can't recall, and then parrot back half of the sentence that the counsel to the inquiry has given him.
I think the technical term is word clouding.
Yeah, he's and sometimes he's really specific, very specific in saying, I cannot remember, and he's very precise. It's amazing what he can't remember and what he can remember, like with them all, you know, it's that there's a lot of similarities, isn't there, between them. And his, in terms of his language, I did make some notes actually, when he says, I can't comment on that, and he's deflecting, and I didn't write the report. If we had £1 for every time he said, I haven't written this document, you'd have to ask the person who wrote this document. We'd all have a bit of money.
I mean, he's literally, he's being asked to comment on it. He says he can't comment. It's about him. It's a document about him. And he said, well, I didn't write it, so I can't comment. Of course you can bloody comment, Rob. What the hell are you on about?
There's a thing about context. That's the other word we've heard a lot of today. So he wants to provide context. He's very much about providing context. But when it comes to the context of his own deployment, he's got no clue. And that's kind of how it's interesting, because he's saying context is really important. But, the context of legislation in relation to the job that I'm doing, no, not a clue.
Yeah. No, he claimed to have no knowledge of the Human Rights Act, of the Regulatory Investigative Powers Act. We've taken to a lot of his reports. A lot of them. There was stuff about the visit of the family of Rachel Corrie, who was murdered by the IDF while they were demolishing homes. He also attended a vigil for Tom Hundle. Tom Hundle was murdered by an IDF sniper. He met the family of Rachel Corrie. He claims he can't remember what he talked to them about. But he says he does remember talking to another undercover officer, one of the closed officers we're not even allowed to know the HN number of, who he said, how abhorrent it was that he'd had to meet them, and that they must have been appalled if they knew that he was an undercover officer. We saw some of his reporting on the John Charles de la Mendes family justice campaign. Interestingly, he was told, and we've got a paper trail for it, he was told not to report on any privileged legal advice or sensitive information about the family justice campaign. He does continue to report on them. Certainly it's not that detailed. It's about activists. And it's because this activist was involved, and he's a political activist, which he uses as like a synonym for a criminal. It feels like very much. He's been incredibly rude to the Counsel of the Inquiry on multiple occasions. To a level to which I'm not really used to seeing really at the inquiry.
There's a real level of contempt underneath everything he says. He has spoken over a few times. He then occasionally does call her mom. But yeah, he's really not happy, is he, about being here and being questioned. And for me, it's contempt. I feel that that's underlying it all.
Yeah, well, we saw some of his some of the posts that he put on Urban 75 in his Boogie Boy handle about where he's like making actually appeared to be perfectly reasonable points at the time. And he's like, well, that's not me. That's the identity. That's my legend. I'm furthering my legend. It was important to post on Urban 75 to further my legend, which seems mental. We saw some of his emails, one of which was him drafting a set of principles for the ISM, which really goes to the heart of the idea of, these officers weren't just, spying on these movements. They were taking an active role within them.
Absolutely. And he claims he can't remember sending that email. And
it's a bloody long email.
It's a really long email. An email like that would take at least half an hour to draft properly. Interesting that he with the Jean-Charles de Menezes campaign, he says, we needed to know if other groups were going to subvert their campaign. And actually the Counsel to Inquiry then sort of said, suggested that actually they were protecting the campaign. However, the police themselves, the undercover police, were subverting other campaigns. So, we need to protect this campaign. Well, you were subverting others. So, it's just cherry picking. It's just.
Yeah, it's a deeply offensive idea. The idea that somehow family justice campaigns have got no agency, and that these activists are there kind of like ready to like take it all in the wrong direction. It's offensive, and also it's bollocks. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, there was no protecting of the family of Jean-Charles Mendes by the police. We heard from Patricia da Silva only the other week, who talked about the way in which they were being intimidated by family liaison officers who were telling them not to speak to the press. So it was important for them not to complain. I mean, it was just, really, really
and
offensive.
ultimately that's what it comes back to. We can't embarrass the police. We need to minimize the bad PR around this, and we need to protect the police's reputation. So,
I mean, it's so much about reputational damage, right? And we see that with we've seen some of the authorization documents that he was able to provide intelligence that prevented the embarrassment of the UK government, and it's about that sort of reputational protection, really, which seems to be so much of it.
Speaking of the government, we've also seen quite a few mentions to MPs here.
Yes,
and I would be saying to all MPs actually that they need to take more interest in this, because whether it's George Galloway or Jeremy Corbyn, MPs are being spied on, and they're our political representatives, and they really ought to pay more heed to this. And if this is going on now, then I think really it's a grave shame that actually this isn't being taken more seriously by our elected representatives.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's very clear as well, Robert Hastings, who he talks about, like, there's been some coyness in the past by undercover officers. We weren't really meant to spy on MPs, but because they'd been there and they gave a speech, I mentioned they were there. He was like, well, George Galloway would always be of interest because of his role as an activist, and Corbyn's always of interest because he would be somebody who was courted by these activist groups. And I mean, like, literally with the Corbyn one, is he's organising an event in Parliament for the family of Rachel Corrie. But that's it's very important apparently that this was reported on, because it shows that the ISM were involved. I mean, he claims because of ISM involvement, everybody's like a legitimate target.
That's the excuse for everything. That's right throughout this afternoon. Well, it was the ISM, it was because the person was linked to the ISM.
Yeah. And let's not forget, earlier on today, he had to admit that he never found any unlawful activity being done by the ISM at any point. He never found them doing anything other than what they purported to do. And this idea that he was like, sniffing out Islamic terrorism. I mean, it would be a joke if it wasn't so appalling what he got up to,
And we've had some interesting testimony today about the spying on campaigns for boycotting and protesting against businesses. So again, we're back to, what interest does business have in this? And, again, it's all legitimate activity. We can boycott Caterpillar if we want to. We can stand outside with a placard if we want to.
I mean, that was a massive high point when he said, it was put to him that there was a Caterpillar action. It was like it was going to be peaceful, lawful protest here. Well, yes, it does appear to be legitimate a protest, but they're wearing cat killer T-shirts, so that could have meant there was going to be disorder. Just insane.
Yeah, just in case is not. A legitimate reason for all of this activity at all. Yeah,
no, absolutely nuts. We're only on a short break. It's not your first time at the inquiry, but it's the first time I've had you on camera.
It's the first full day at the inquiry.
Right, yeah. What do you make of it?
It's a lot. Today's been quite. It's sort of at points it's rattled on and then it's really slowed down. And there's a lot of detail to take in. It's a lot easier when you just can listen. And you're not having to then remember for these videos, but no, it's a really interesting process, and I would definitely say to anyone who's got an interest to come down and see how it works, because it's fascinating for the content, but also for the process and everything that goes on as well. So it's and for me, I'm here because I just feel like it's important to bear witness. I'm not somebody who is involved at any level, but bearing witness is really important, and I do feel like the more people that can bear witness to this, the better, because it's part of the wider process of trying to hold these people and their managers and everyone involved accountable for what they did.
Absolutely, I would echo that massively. I mean, I really do feel that like the more interest there is in the inquiry, the harder the inquiry works to a better job. And we can certainly see that in the early days of the inquiry, when it was, you know, nothing was being recorded, nothing was being kept, that, you know, and there was very little interest. And compared to now, they're making much more of an effort to realise that the public are interested on one level. By the sounds I'm hearing around us, I think it's time to go back in. Thanks for joining us. Please like, share, subscribe these videos. It makes a huge difference to how visible they are.